do when we bring groups here, very similar to Jer and John, who are friends of mine as well, the Global Immersion Project, to understand the complexities and just the humanity of what's happening here. And so I'd just love to hear from you guys and just share your stories or whatever you feel is important to share to college students. So.
Sure, absolutely. You want to go first? Well, first of all, welcome to Friendship Park. Friendship Park is actually a very sacred ground for us. I participate in two different organizations. One is Unified U.S. Deported Veterans, who is an organization dedicated to helping veterans that have served in the U.S. military and after their service have been deported, torn away from the country that they grew up in, torn away from the country that they went to war, many of them, to defend, a country that a lot of them laid down the ultimate sacrifice, their life for the country. That's part of one of the organizations that I participate with. The other one is Friends of Friendship Park. And what Friends of Friendship Park does is actually promote this particular ground. That's why I said to us it's sacred ground. And it's sacred ground because this is the only place where families that have been separated by unjust immigration laws can actually come together and for a moment, for a couple, 3 hours on Saturdays and Sundays, be able to be a family again. The only way that they can hug, that they can have any kind of physical contact that you have seen is through a pinky kiss through that mesh. We believe that that is unacceptable. A little over a year ago, we initiated a petition to Border Patrol so that families would be able to hug through the border wall. We're not asking for a whole lot. We're not asking for them to open a gate and let people through or to hug at a gate. We're just asking them through the crevices on the wall, not the mesh, to allow families to hug. This was permitted before 2008, but then after 2008, they restricted, they closed down the park, and thanks to the efforts and the negotiations from Friends of Friendship Park, Border Patrol accepted to reopen the park and allow the families to at least have the contact through the mesh. Again, we initiated a petition to allow families to hug through the openings. That was denied. But you know, we're very persistent. Just like we don't give up on our families, we're not going to give up on our effort to reunite families. So the next step was to create the project that we now have in full swing, which is a petition to President Trump and Peña Nieto. Instead of creating prototype border walls that only simulate hate, that only instigate hate and racism at the cost of many billions of dollars, instead to create binational parks. Binational parks are what has the possibility to actually secure the border better than those costly prototype walls that are being built. Why? Because a very simple reason, very simple solution. If our friendship ties, which have existed for many years between Mexico and the U.S., are extended instead of divided, if we are friends, if we are neighbors, and I care for you and you care for me, you're going to look out for my well-being, just like I'm going to look out for your well-being. And we're not going to allow anything to happen to each other. We're going to keep an eye out for each other. That's why we believe that friendship is actually the answer to provide better security on the border. We also believe that by actually creating binational parks, it will lower the amount of people that are dying crossing the desert, crossing the ocean to get to their family members. Part of the problem that a lot of people intend and take that perilous journey, that even risk their own life, is because of the desperation, the anxiety of being torn away from your family, from your loved ones. And we strongly believe that if you have that opportunity every weekend to share a meal with your loved ones, to hug your kids, to hug your grandkids, your wife, your mom, your dad, it's going to alleviate some of that pressure, some of that anxiety, to help you to last one more day, one more week here in Tijuana, here in Mexico, fighting for a legal way to return back to the United States to the loved ones that you have left behind. That's why to us it's very important that we push this binational park. That we ask for your assistance, because without you we can't do it. We have a website, www.friendshippark.org. You can go on to the website, sign the petition, share it with your friends. That is the only way that we're going to be able to pressure government of Trump and Peña Nieto to listen to us and to listen to the suffering families.
Hey, Robert, can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure.
What do you perceive, or have they told you the fear is of not allowing families to meet in the area where there's no mesh?
Yes, security issues, that you might be passing drugs, money, weapons. But if you all notice, there's a secondary fence, and there's a gate at the secondary fence. Now, Border Patrol are the best trained law enforcement officers that the United States has, comparable to military training. And they cannot trust their training on these Border Patrol officers to enforce those laws, to enforce the security of people introducing any illegal substances. That's kind of ridiculous. We don't think that that is true. This is just a way to continue the hate, to continue the racism, to continue the division from the families, the separation from the families. Again, this is sacred ground to us. And one of the things that we're always looking out for is the families. And if we see anybody trying to do something that might be illegal or that might hinder the availability of families to be able to meet here, we have to, and it's our obligation, and of course we can't get confrontational with somebody that wants to break the law, but we can appeal to them the damage that they're going to be doing to the families by their illegal activity. And up to now, we've been very fortunate that we have been approached by a few people asking how they can jump the fence, how they can go across. And that's where we try to do our social service work, trying to discourage them to make that leap, but instead to become a productive member of their community here in Tijuana. And that way they can continue a fight, continue to search for legal options to one day be able to return to the U.S., but legally, with documents. We don't want to promote anybody or try to advise somebody to try to go undocumented because of the perils. We have the ocean. They can drown in the ocean. They can dehydrate on the desert. They can be confronted by snake, by wild animals. Their life is in danger, or simply be caught by Border Patrol and end up facing very long prison sentences. How's that going to help their family to cope with being separated from them? They're deported, they're separated, but now they're even detained, they're taken away from their liberty. It doesn't make any sense. You're welcome. Any questions? We have an office, we're talking about deported veterans. We have an office right at the border, about 30, 40 yards from the deportation area at the Pet West Port of Entry International border, precisely for that, because we want to be the first step of interception of our deported veterans, so that when they are deported, because when you get deported with the shirt off your back. No money, no belongings, nothing. So when you get here, unless you remember a phone number of a friend, a relative out here, you're basically pretty much on your own. And there's a lot of perils. I mean, we live here in Tijuana. I was deported almost 5 years ago. Hector's been here a little bit longer. There's a lot of danger when you first come across. There's probably even more danger when you first come across deported than if you come as a tourist. If you come as a tourist, the police keep an eye out for you. People don't really want to create a problem for you because you're a tourist. Part of the way that people sustain themselves here